Are you reading
That's
anything really
good.
good right now?
I'm reading the new, the Fourth Wing series.
Yes.
I'm reading the third book just came out, and I
Okay.
remember that it was coming out soon enough that I put the audiobook on hold at my library, like the minute it was available to be put on hold, like a month ago. So I like got it I was like, this is the first time this has ever happened to me. I usually like only remember like a week before the book comes out. By then,
Yes.
like everyone else in my county has put it. But so I got it, but it's a 25-hour audiobook. So
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize, I mean, I knew they were long, but I suppose I didn't think about that in terms of audiobook length.
I think that yeah, they've just been getting longer.
Oh,
I've been hearing it was originally supposed to be a trilogy and now it's like 5 books. And it's like one of those things where like you're like, I think this could have been a really tight trilogy. But the first book
yeah.
made so much money that they like start I'm like, I'm getting some world building, like
It's
that's
fun.
fun.
I feel about series the way I do about movies, which is I think every movie should be a tight 90. And I just think
Yeah,
we should start bringing
movies
books
are
back to a tight
too
90.
long.
They're too long and there are
They're
too many of
too
them.
long. But that is also something that's happening with romance. Like so many
Yes.
of them are so fucking long. Nowadays, I'm like, why do I need a 500 page? You don't need 500 pages to tell me a contemporary romance. Like you don't.
If Nora Roberts could do it in like a tight 200, like we all can.
Like listen, like I'll accept like 400 pages at
Yes.
the maximum. But especially because I mean, obviously you have books like Kingdom of Dreams. Like I feel like all these old school,
Mm.
there's a lot of old school
Hmm.
romances that are super long, but they at the very least we get like different POVs. Like it's not
Yes.
just like there's so much more like color. I feel like you can't have a long romance if you're not going to give us like all the side plots and like little
Yes.
tidbits that like you got in old school romance.
Which even like I think about like the Lisa Kleypas like Hathaway series and like the Wallflower series, like give me like two chapters teeing up the next in the romance too. Like you can
Yeah, people don't do
just
that anymore.
no and bring it back. I love a romance universe and I love feeling absolutely hooked on what is going to come next. But
Yeah. Yeah,
uh,
because I like when an author like has like the ex-author cinematic universe or
mhm.
whatever. And like when they tee it up, but then also like obviously like we were talking about earlier with the whole like how historical like does it all the time and like that's not as common as contemporary. And like you have people like Emily Henry who like will make small little references and like there's a cinematic
Yeah.
universe, but it's not like setting up. And that's the same kind of like Ali Hazelwood does that too. Like
Yeah.
it's the same, but like I kind of miss when like reading a book and be like, oh, those two fuckers are the next book. They're an enemies
Right?
to lovers.
Well, Anna Huang did that really, really well with like the kiss
Yes.
quotient and all of those. And I was like, this is perfect. Give me more, please. Because it's like the
Wait,
trick with
Helen
contemporary.
Huang.
Helen Huang,
Helen,
that's what it
no,
was.
no, no. I was,
Yes.
I was like, Anna Huang sounds right. That she's I mean, she also did that in the Twisted series.
Yes, she
She set
did.
up like 4 different series in the third book, like other
Which is
series.
like what
Great.
you should do. I get that the challenge is like with historical, generally you're working in with like really closed societies. And so they're all within like the same
Right.
small town or London society or whatever. So it makes sense. With contemporary, you can do that within a small town or a university like Ali Hazelwood and
Or just like a
give us that
friend, like
same
introduce
or a
the
friend.
cousin, like,
Yes. Just give
yeah.
me more. It makes the characters feel more well-rounded and real too when you give them
Yeah.
just like a little bit of a sense of what's happening around them.
And you love to see the cameos from the previous
Yeah.
couples.
It just like helps with the marketing of your books too, because then you're gonna go,
Well, right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's not like those aren't like they are happening. Like, I don't know if you've read Elsie Silver's Chestnut Spring series,
no,
um,
not yet.
which is like cowboy, small town. But it's all in this small town called Chestnut Springs. It's like three biological brothers, their like adopted brother, and like their like other adopted, like not like they're like pseudo adopted brother. Like and then like two of the sisters are like everyone, every single love interest from the first, like every single couple in the first book. Like they're mentioned by the first book. I'm like, Yes.
Okay.
I love
I gotta
this.
I gotta check that out because that just like I it makes my heart warm. It gives me and it also makes me feel like the author has and not that they need this. This is just something I
Yeah,
like
it's
a
okay to write a
strong vision.
standalone. Like you can
Oh,
write a standalone.
I
That's fine.
I will read all of those as well. I do not discriminate. But sometimes it makes me feel like I'm like truly entering a world and like getting fully
Yeah.
immersed when I feel like I know I can live in it for a few books. So,
Yeah. And then they do the kids.
and then they do the kids,
Kids.
sometimes the neighbors.
Yeah.
I love a second and third epilogue. Like I know Tessa Dare
My
for what we're about to talk about did a second epilogue for this, which I did not read in
Wait,
time,
she
but
did?
I found it on Goodreads when I was doing some like light stalking today. And I need to find it.
Oh
I'm
no, I
sure
didn't
it's
read it. It
somewhere.
wasn't in that. So I actually have a.
Oh,
Okay,
you
wait.
have the physical?
Before we start talking, hello, listener. Welcome to We've Had It One Night Romance Podcast. I'm Allison.
I'm Elodie.
And today we're talking about When a Scot Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. I don't know why I'm holding up the book as if they can like see me. I have a physical copy of this book. I have a signed copy because I met Tessa Dare when I went to the historical romance retreat in San Diego in like 2021. And she signed it. And like I actually like met her. Like I actually had like multiple conversations. It wasn't just like me going up because they like the whole retreat is like the authors like are like hanging out, whatever. It was very nice. And I got this book because I really like the lobster parts.
I love the lobster parts. It's a great traditional romance cover. Like
it's so great. It's like I'm a little sad that it doesn't have the clinch because it's a reprint,
mhm.
but it is an excellent. Look at that
It's
hokey. It's a
beautiful.
listener. Let me describe it to you. It's a beautiful woman in a mint dress with like a Scottish castle lock in the background and a man like Jamie from Outlander with Chris Pine's face, kind of, is the vibes that I'm getting. He's obviously shirtless. He's wearing a kilt. This is all that I want to be. Like, this is, I need these to come back. I personally, I want the painted versions of these
Covers.
clinch covers
Yes.
to come back from like the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
But I want like that to come back. I want that to be the next revival.
I'm into it because I feel like there has to be this, we're in the 70s revival right now. We have to be coming back to the 80s, 90s
We
painterly, like,
have to be.
or can we get people doing fan art painting covers for some of these? Like,
Listen.
if there's a Reddit that's already doing it, please send it my way.
Yeah, we need to bring that like one guy back. There was like one guy who did like
Yes.
60% of like the painted covers and like all the
They're,
Fabio covers and like all of that. Like bring him back.
but I love them because they like truly, it's not just that they're like sultry and sometimes kitschy and fun. They give you a sense of the dynamic between the two characters. Sometimes they're really sultry and
Yeah.
smoky. These two, they're obviously in love and kind of like smirky.
Yeah.
It comes through. You get a sense of what you're in
Yeah.
for.
And you know what? I feel like it's so common nowadays for like special editions to be the thing and like for like Target to have a special edition and like
Mhm.
Walmart to have a special edition and like Costco to have like all these like fucking special editions that are just like cash grabs that like maybe have like a deleted scene, but like it's nothing, you know what I mean? It's like not really, it's just a cash grab. I feel like instead of having a special edition, if you wanted to sell like prints of like the painted book, like you know what I mean? Just like something like
Yes,
fun.
I totally agree. Because you were speaking to the person that bought the full Bridgerton set when I saw that Netflix was doing a release because I wanted the original covers, not the like Netflix edition covers. And I was like, they're gonna be ugly.
Yeah.
So, oh,
They're not as bad. They're not as bad as they could have been. The
they are
Netflix
not.
covers.
I did see a special edition of the Bridgerton books in a bookstore this weekend where they were actually kind of cool. They were hardcover cloth bound, like those like
Mm,
beautiful penguin editions of the
I think
classics.
I think I saw Julia Quinn posting about those.
That is the special edition I will allow
Yeah.
in my
They're like
world.
pastel-y, right? The like
Yeah,
colors
they're
is like pastel.
pastel-y.
Yeah.
It's like a sturdier book. And
Yeah.
That I am fine with.
I do
Send
that.
that my way. Yep.
I do that. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I do love a penguin clothbound class.
one day I will have a full set. And then I'll have like the books that I actually write in and read
Yeah.
vigorously next to them. But oh,
I love the there's a girl on TikTok. I think there are probably multiple people doing this, but there's like this one girl who's like learned how to bind books and she's rebinding her entire library
oh
to
my
look
God.
like one book at a time to be like Penguin clothbound classics and it's incredible.
That is amazing.
Incredible.
Why can't I have a useful hobby? That's
I was like,
beautiful.
I mean, listen, like I'm sure bookbinding is a lot harder than like it looks, but I'm like I feel like it would not be so hard to learn this, but I feel like if I did, I would have to commit very, very hard because you like definitely have to buy a lot of like material. Like it's not a starter
Yeah.
hobby.
Not a starter hobby, not a hobby for someone like me who every time she tries to knit a sweater gets halfway through the first panel and then is like, well, I'll
Oh,
pick this up next year. I'd get 4 books in, and then the rest of my bookshelf would just be
yeah,
regular
would
books.
be not. I'd be like, okay, that's nice.
Ooh.
That was
Yeah,
fun.
so
Anyway,
that was fun. Anyways, that was a fun time. Next. Next.
next,
I think I buy
next.
books at a faster rate than I could ever bind them. So that is the other concerning factor. But
Yeah. Okay, so you're a book buyer. Yeah, I definitely have a limited library, but yeah.
yeah, I enjoy reading physical books. I've moved away from my
Yeah.
Kindle a little bit in the last few years, just
Huh,
spending so
okay.
much time on a laptop for work. I want physical media.
I
And
get that.
so,
Yeah. I have had obviously we've talked about this, but like I'm an audiobook number one fan, but I have been reading with my eyeballs more often. The Chestnut Spring series, I actually had to read with my eyeballs because my library only had the physical editions. They
oh,
didn't, I haven't been able to find the audiobooks at any library. Like I think Amazon probably has them in like an exclusive like vice
an
grip
exclusive
thing as
deal.
Amazon does or something. But I got a Kindle, like a Paperwhite.
I do love my Paperwhite. I use that for travel a lot too, and for romance because it just flips so much faster.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, the Libby integration, just being able to get stuff from the library
Yeah,
really
that's the
fast.
thing is the Libby integration is really fucking nice.
Oh, Libby, if you ever need a product marketing manager, call me. I will work for you
Yes.
any day. Oh,
Libby, I'll come back to the publishing industry.
yes.
You need.
Oh, amazing. Where do we want to start with this book?
Let's give like a brief overview of the plot. Basically, it features Maddie, who's an icon. She's a legend. She is the moment. She makes up a fake fiance, pretends to write letters to him, and then eventually like kills him off and pretends to mourn him. And then like 10 years later, lo and behold, a man who was in the army like her fake fiance with the same name as her fake fiance shows up and he's like, "Hey, honey, I'm
I'm
back
home
and I want your castle that she inherited for her and her fake fiance."
out of pity for being a spinster who will never be married.
Yes. Although we do learn eventually that the person who she inherited from was like kind of knew that she was like faking and was just like, I just assumed we weren't talking about it, but that we both knew that I knew.
We all, it's like that Spider-Man pointing meme. They were
Mm.
all pointing at each other. They
Hmm.
all kind of knew, I guess.
I guess, yeah. But it was like very relate, like Maddie like making this up because she has like an extrovert, like her version of an evil stepmother is an extrovert stepmother who is like trying to like get her to be social. And she's like, I will not.
I will not. I'm gonna get myself out of the situation so fast and effectively. That was a
Very
pretty good
effective.
ruse.
Yeah. And she writes like his answers back. She's like, well, I had to make it realistic. So I had to write your letters back to me too.
And I want to know how she did that because it sounds like, based off of what our Aunt Thea was saying, that they were reading it. I'm like, did she write with her left hand? Was she really,
I
because she was
don't
a great artist, good at
know.
faking handwriting?
Maybe
I want to know.
she was just reading them out loud. Like she never let them like read the physical letter. She was like, "Oh, it's private." But she would
Personal.
like read
Yeah.
them his like fake poetry. out,
Oh my
out
God.
loud and shit.
I hope she did the accent when she was reading it to the family.
Oh
These
my
are the things that I think
God.
about.
This is the
Oh,
thing. Oh, I do love a good Scottish accent.
I love it. I did the audiobook for this one, and the Scottish accent in it was
It
lovely.
was good. And this was a listener suggestion. And the first time that someone suggested it was when I went to Scotland and I was like, I need some like romance books, like recommend. And someone was like, you should read When a Scot Ties the Knot. They were also like do it on the podcast too. And I realized that right when I read this book again just now, I have been on like a mini Scottish, like also like romance, like
Ooh.
binge. Like I just read one called Lock and Key, which is about a woman that falls in love with the Loch Ness monster, who is unfortunately a man in
Oh,
this universe. I mean, he's still very cute. I appreciate him being a man. I mean, I appreciate he's a nice man. He's a nice
okay.
hero. But I am like, could it have been lesbians? Yes.
But I love that you're on this like Scotland kick. That is
Like
so
very
fun.
unintentionally.
You are guided to what you need, and apparently what
I
you need
am
right now is
guided.
Scotland. Uh,
I always need Scotland.
I want to be on the Highlands with a scotch and just like hiking somewhere. And I want like the song Liz on Top of the World from Pride and Prejudice to be playing in the background and like
Yes,
wind whipping
exactly.
at me. Uh-huh. A backpack can do the deal. But did you see that person that went and did all of those crazy hikes in the garb of the women who first climbed them?
No,
It's
but I love
really cool.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She like hand makes all of the historical clothes that they would have worn for their treks and then does the hikes in it. It's incredible.
Amazing. No, but it's like every time someone complains about like corsets or like historical costuming, I'm like, look at this picture of a woman on top
Yeah.
of a fucking mountain.
Yeah.
She's fine. She's fine.
You know what? Everybody gets to choose what's comfortable for them. It's just like today. Some people enjoy bras, some people don't. Just
Yeah.
make your own decision. Don't pass judgment
Yeah.
on the past. Justice for
Yeah.
corsets.
I would love to bring them back. That's entirely. I feel like that would fix a lot of my back pain.
These are the things we want. Just like we haven't really innovated on the bra since like the 90s. Let's bring some innovation
No.
back. I
Bring them
know.
back.
Bring them
Somebody.
back. There's some great mind out there. Cora Harrington, I'm sure, is thinking about it. She's a really cool. Have you
Oh,
heard of her
no, I don't
before?
know who the.
Oh,
No.
she's a fashion historian that focuses specifically on lingerie and like corsetry and stuff.
Oh,
And she has an
I
amazing book
love
on it.
that.
Hmm.
That's so cool.
I think she's on the same Justice for Corsets train that you are. So, a kindred spirit.
Yes. I'm very on the Justice for Corset trade. And I appreciate that this book didn't have any, there was no corset slander to be
No,
found, which, listen, it's hit or miss in historical. Like,
I personally enjoy a historical that gives me the bare minimum about clothing because I'm just like they I think Tessa Dare does a wonderful job of focusing on the garments that like actually tell you something about the characters or what they're in. Like
hmm.
she always wears black and gray because she's always drawing and she's stained by ink and
And
the
she's quote
clasp at
unquote
the
in
brooch.
mourning.
And she's quote unquote in mourning. I love that she's fully committed to the bit.
Yeah. And she's like, I look better black and gray anyway. And it, like, yeah, it hides the ink stains. She's like, so actually, this is just convenient for me.
This is a win is a win. She
Yeah.
is a straight W's across the board. I just like I love it. And I love that the aunt was always wearing some like crazy colored turban.
Mm-hmm.
Very 1820s
Icon.
icon fashion
Very.
out in like this random
Yes.
castle in Scotland. It's
Yes.
great. I think and then he's always just like in some state of undress, which is exactly how a hero
That's
always should be.
how it should be. Exactly. And he wears a kilt and it's great. Like I
It's great.
no notes.
Absolutely zero. They're always ready to go.
They're
Exactly.
always ready to go.
Oh, so okay, getting back to the plot, he shows up. He's like, babe, ready to take my castle. So nice to
He's
meet
like,
you.
hey, bet you thought you
Hey,
seen the last of me.
me. It feels very much like Traitors, the TV show, when the characters walk into the breakfast room in the morning and they're like, oh my God, you are here. Um, but also a Scottish castle, actually, now that I think about it.
Yes, and
So,
doesn't Alan Cumming host
yes.
it?
And he's
Also a Scottish
wonderful.
heartthrob. Love
Scottish
him.
heartthrob, wears a lot of tartan. It's beautiful.
Speaking of tartan, that's one of the thing I love about a Scottish romance, especially I mean, I feel like you unfortunately you simply don't see this in contemporaries. And you know what? That's not necessarily I'm not blaming contemporaries authors' fault. I'm blaming the English for that because they did ban tartan after the clearances. Like I'm blaming the English for the fact that modern Scottish heroes do not get horny when they see a gal in their family like tartan. But we get it in
Absolutely.
historicals.
We get it in historicals. Two thoughts here. One, everybody should read the movie Maid of Honor, because you do get a scene of people in kilts throwing logs around. It's
Isn't that
great.
isn't that also with Patrick Dempsey and the guy that plays Owen Hunt? Like it's two like Grey's
Yes,
Anatomy fans. Like
yes.
they're in
And
it.
it's and Michelle Monaghan in this
Yes.
crazy
Oh my
tartan get
God.
up. It's a great movie. So that's that one. But thought two, maybe every other chapter while I'm reading this book, all I could think of was like, screw the British. I hate them.
Oh my,
So,
yes. I was like, fuck the British. And we get a fun little like the historical tidbit about the clearances because it's like the
mhm.
Duchess of Sutherland or something, or the Countess of Sutherland, who's a real historical figure listener who kicked off a bunch of Scottish people off their like his ancestral land to raise sheep, which is like basically what the many, many different times the clearances happened. That's
Oh.
what happened.
Well, and they're woven in, they're also made personal, not only that Logan and his men, are like claiming this land so that they can have land, but
Yeah.
also that as he's bringing his men home from town to town, like some of the women and wives and families left because they were clear, like because of the
They were forced
clearances.
out. Yeah.
They were forced out, and just like the
Yeah.
havoc that wreaks, especially as these men are fighting for the British and like then have
Right.
everything taken away by the British. Mind, body,
Right.
spirit, home.
Yes. By the
So,
God, fuck the English. Sorry if you're English. If you're like English today, I'm sure you're nice, but your ancestors, fuck them. Fuck your,
yeah, like
fuck.
the policies and economic systems of the British, we say fuck that. Oh,
Yeah. You mentioned his men. I feel like we didn't mention that he's like a captain who's like traveling with his band of men. And yeah, they're basically all homeless. Like there's one, the only one whose name I remember is Grant. And Grant is like this big, like beefy man with a heart of gold who has amnesia, like partial amnesia. Like he forgot everything. Like he got hit by a bomb in the middle of battle, and like he basically does not have long-term memory of anything after that. So they already went to his village because he's constantly like, I want to see like my wee ones and like my nan. And they already went there and like his two babies died from like tuberculosis and like his nan died and like everyone else from the village was like shipped off to Canada because they were in the clearances and then their boat sank. Like it was like one fucking tragedy out and like Grant's character is so tragic but also so funny. Like I'm like Tessa, why do you do this to me?
she is. Can we just have a moment of silence in honor of Tessa Dare's skill? Because she is perfect at weaving in like real emotional trauma and like
Yes.
complex trauma across all of these characters. But then she also illustrates like the joy and the levity of life and falling in love and like friendship, and like
Yeah.
both things live together, and it just feels so real. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she's wonderful. But li like listeners, seriously, if I wouldn't I mean like her books are like kind of rom-coms. I'm kind of like fuzzy on like how much trauma you're allowed to have for it to still be a rom-com because like her books like usually always have really heavy topics, but they're also
Mhm.
some of the only books that I've ever like laughed aloud
She's
reading.
a really funny writer. Like she has a
Yeah.
wonderful sense of humor, and she adapts it to the characters too and like their dynamic.
Yeah.
But you're right. And I just think it's not even necessarily, yeah, I think what she also does really well is the characters are processing that trauma and they don't necessarily like get
Mhm.
closure to it because that's not real life.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
through these relationships and experiences, they like come to understand themselves more with levity
Yeah.
and clarity. And It's all nuanced and wonderful and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like this like beautiful like found family kind of and it's like
Yeah.
funny because like both Logan and Maddie managed to create found family to the extent that like
Hmm.
Maddie has her aunt that she lives with. I mean, she has like an actual family, but like she doesn't see them that often because she feels guilty that she's lied to them for 10 years. But then she's
Ew.
also like beloved in the village. Like we get this scene
Yes.
where Logan's like, listen, you're an English landlord, like they're gonna hate you. And she's like, mm-hmm, yeah. He's like, listen, let me tell you about the clearances. She's like, wow, I had no idea about the clearances. And then she gets there and they're like, gosh, so excited to see you. But so she has that found family, and then he has his found family of men, but like still their families are not complete until like they come together.
Because they were each aching to be known and accepted and in different ways. Like they both experienced their own types of isolation. And it just,
Hmm.
that it like, un, yeah, just total acceptance. It's just so beautiful. It made my heart ache.
Yeah. And like isolation that's like both, I mean, both, it's like rooted in their trauma because they both have their own trauma. Obviously, Logan has his trauma from war, and Maddie has her just like shyness and the fact that she was almost trampled to death in a crowd when she was like 8 and then her mom died, which felt very like Kate Bridgerton afraid of thunderstorms.
It was like, yeah, this one where I was like, I think, like, is this actual PTSD? Like, I'd want some
Oh, I
psychologist
think
to
she
read.
has actual PTSD. Yeah,
Yeah,
from being trampled. But then like the book
yes.
also ties it in with the
Oh,
fact
and
that
then the
her
mom
mom
dies.
died on that same night
Yeah,
while she was like almost trampled. So it's like this like extra thing. But yeah, she was like almost like
yeah.
it's really fucking scary to be in a crowd. Like
No.
listener.
And people just like don't, and understanding why she couldn't ever tell any, or why she felt like she could never tell anybody, and why
Yeah.
then they never took her serious. Just like that, like piece of glass between her and her family. It's not just shy, and people are just like, oh, get it. Like her extroverted stepmother who loved her and meant very well was like, just get over it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's like literally just being in crowds. She's like she can't because she's great with people one on one. Like I don't think we
Hmm.
don't really struggle with her ever like when we see her interact with like small groups of people at a time or like
No.
meeting new people. But yeah, so like it's based on their trauma, but it's also somewhat like self-imposed and they're each the person who can like break through the wall to like yank each other out of
Yes.
that like self-imposed isolation.
And they do such a wonderful job of being empathetic to one another. Like they both like you get scenes where they are thinking about like, oh, this person must be perceiving me this way, and this is what I can do to prove to them. And I just love that, where it's not just like,
Mhm.
and then they lived happily ever after. I mean, I also love that too.
Yes.
I
I
will
mean, I
read
do
that,
want
but I do want that too. But I love that this book like really overcomes the emotional hurdles for both of them
that.
in like
Hmm.
really true and unique ways. It just, oh,
Yeah. And like how it balances like an insta love kind of thing, but also
mhm.
still maintains it's kind of like I guess it would be like rivals to lovers because they're kind of rivals insofar as like Logan wants
Yeah,
this fucking castle and he's like, you have to marry me or I'm gonna like send all the letters that you wrote to like the London gossip sheets. Um, And then she's like, I have to find those letters so I can burn them so that we can get an annulment. Like,
hmm,
so like they're still like bickering and they like, you know, but they both see each other and they're immediately, it's like they've been hit over the head with a frying pan. They're like, oh, fuck,
yes.
he's way hotter than I thought this person was gonna be.
Exactly. And I love for him getting to know who she actually is outside of the letters, and then for him
Mhm.
knowing who he is outside of the man that she constructed. And like that they were both in love with ideas of each other and then got to know the real
Mhm.
them and that
Mhm.
struggle of vulnerability. I like to the point of tropes. I feel like this book played with and flipped a lot of tropes really, really well. Like
Mhm.
it's not a marriage. It's not like a forced marriage or marriage of convenience, but it
But like it
kind of
also kind
is.
of is.
It's not a fake relationship, but it kind of is for 9 years. Like one-sided fake
Yeah.
relationship.
But it was kind of fake on his part too, because like
Yeah.
he was like accidentally like faithful to her the whole time because like all
Yeah.
of his men were like, no, we can't let you cheat on Maddie.
You're not allowed to go to the brothels.
No, you have to
Damn
stay
it, even the priest
home.
went.
They're like
Exactly.
beating like the camp followers away from his tent. Like absolutely.
Exactly. I loved the line where he's like, even like the camp priest went and I couldn't. And I'm just like, I love
I love it.
great humor. Thank you. But they just, she like flips and subverts them so well. It just is unexpected and fresh. And I love it. It's so quirky.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
so yeah. And I also like that the pseudo marriage of convenience that it happens like right away. Because I feel like a lot of
mm-hmm.
times I'll get told a book is a marriage of convenience, and then the marriage of convenience doesn't happen until like
Halfway through.
yeah, like halfway through. And I'm like, no, it's not.
You can give a little bit of backstory, but I want to be thrown into what they're feeling. I
Yes,
don't
if
need
you're
to
gonna
know
tell
the
me it's the
whole.
trope, yeah, I need the trope. I need the trope to be there and I need it to last. So it's like the enemies to
Yes.
lovers thing. Like they're enemies to lovers, but they're like they bicker for 2 chapters and then like they're immediately in
Yep.
each other's pants. I'm like, no, I need them to fucking hate each other.
Because you need it. It's the pacing. Because that is what makes a book feel really long then. When if you don't
Hmm.
have the trope pacing right, it just then you're like, why are we
Yeah.
here? I'm having a good
Yeah.
time, but like this could
Why are
have
we
been 90
here?
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know the pacing is bad. At least for me, one of the key signs that when a pacing is not working for me is when I start to get bored with the sex scenes
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, there's too many, or I'm like, why are we
Yeah.
having this? Like, what is this doing? Like, listen, I love a sex scene and I'm so fine. If you want to throw in a gratuitous sex scene, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't
Do
have
it.
to be like perfectly like aligned with the
Mm-mm.
plot, like pushing it like relevant. Like, it can just be fun. But
Mm-hmm.
like when I start to get bored with them, then it's like, okay, this book is going on for too long.
Exactly. But this brings up a great point. Tessa Dare, queen of sex scenes as well, because this did
Oh,
such a good
yeah.
job. It built the plot, like the sex scenes mirrored their relationship. Like they start by
Hmm.
like one person, like maybe you make out, and then it's like mutual but separate
Masturbation.
pleasure, mutual
Yeah.
masturbation. That is the word I was looking for. Parallel play. And then
Oh, parallel.
parallel play. I was like, wait, what is the what's the word here? I don't know if either is right.
But I feel like parallel play is right, but also is mostly used for like toddlers.
Yeah. I think so. We'll leave it there. I meant mutual masturbation. There we go.
Yeah, mutual
Um,
masturbation.
that is the alliteration I'm looking for. And so you have that, and then it's him pleasuring her, and then it's well, no, and then they're like dry humping, and then it's him pleasuring her, and then her pleasuring him, and then finally they merge and they're
Yeah.
one, and it is hot, and it is wonderful, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And they don't have penetrative sex until like
Almost the
80% or
end.
something, until
Mm-hmm.
almost the very end because they can't. She's like, I don't want to have penetrative sex because then we can't get it annulled,
Yes,
like once that happens. But it's still so sexy.
it's still so sexy, and like you're building with them, like you're feeling the
Hmm.
frustration, and it just plays with them like falling in love with each other but not liking each other but being attracted to each other, and just the confusion that creates.
Hmm.
I loved it.
There's not enough making out in romance novels these days.
No,
Like people
give
go
us a good
right to
makeout.
sex. And I get it, like especially in contemporaries, it's like in real life, like yeah, people aren't gonna wait like 2 months to have sex, you know, but like I'm like, sometimes you just want to dry hump. Go back to middle school.
Yes,
Okay. There's a reason that you liked to do that in middle school, and it's because it feels fucking good.
it's just give us a quick hot makeout session and normalize it, because you know what, like life is life, everybody gets to have what they want. Don't put pressure on people, just have a good
Yeah.
time, have the
Yeah.
time that you want. Just
Yeah. Listen, I personally believe you can't write you cannot be considered a good sex scene writer if you cannot make someone horny from a makeout scene. Like if I
mhm.
don't get turned on by your makeout scenes, then like you need to work on your craft.
Exactly. Make me feel frustrated or knocked off my feet or disoriented or
Yeah.
whatever you're going to do within those scenes.
Yeah.
Because it just, yeah, it helps propel the plot too. Because then it makes the sex scenes feel like they're building on each other as well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Don't give it to me too
Propulsive.
early.
Unless it really works in the plot, in which case, great. Waking up in Vegas.
Right. Sometimes,
Case in
sometimes
point.
do give it to me. Sometimes have
Yes.
it, you know what? Sometimes have it be fucking Destiny's Surrender by Beverly Jenkins, where literally the book starts with her like dick deep on top of him. Like
Yes.
starts
That works
mid-sex
there.
scene.
I mean, talk about craft. Yeah. That is
Beverly
craft.
Jenkins.
Beverly
Fucking
Jenkins.
Beverly Jenkins. An
Oh,
icon.
an icon. One of the best to ever do it. Just,
Every time I get
oh,
like I'm like feeling like slightly burned out, like I've read a bunch of books and like usually it's like a kind of a bunch of like mediocre books in a row. Like I'm like,
mhm.
let me just find another Beverly Jenkins in my library and do a little reset.
It's, you need those palate cleansers because we can talk about this, but I've burned out on contemporary right now. And so this
Hmm.
novel was just like a wonderful homecoming
Hmm.
return to form of what a wonderful book can be. Because
Yeah.
I got burnt. I'm getting burned. It's not anything to do with authors. It has everything to do with the industry and everything to do with
Yeah.
marketing. It's
Yeah.
really hard to differentiate and figure out what your book is. Like the books that you know you're drawn
Yes.
to now.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, there are a lot of reasons. I mean, I feel like people have talked like ad nauseum about the cartoon covers. And the good thing about that is I
Mhm.
do think at least the current style of cartoon covers is on its way out. I think that we've like reached
Mhm.
market saturation for that. So I'll be curious to see what comes next.
Painted covers, please.
Painted covers. Although, like, I feel like I'm jumping around, but like I feel like the youths and we were talking earlier, like before we started recording listener, and we'll talk about it now about like book talk and social media and how that's kind of where this is leading to. But like there was this girl on who posted on TikTok, and I don't mean this to like flame her. Like I feel like if you look, you could definitely find this video that I'm talking about. I don't mean to bully her. Enough people bullied her, but she was in a bookstore and she found like the Harlequin romance section. And you know how those covers look. Like they're very like simple, formulaic, like two people like embracing in some way. Like they're the clinch covers, like they're very like a Harlequin romance cover is a Harlequin romance cover. And she was like, what are these like AI books? Like, whatever. Like, she was like, what the fuck? I think she legitimately thought that they were like somehow like AI books that were in this Barnes and Noble. And people were like, you know, going after her and like flaming her. And I was like, I think she just didn't, guys. She just didn't. But that's the thing is that there's so many people who like, because they've come to romance from this different avenue, like they don't know the old ways. Like they don't know the deep magic.
Of being like deep in the stacks at your local library, secretly reading these books and being like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a pretty dress. Let me read this book. And then suddenly you've been hooked on a drug that is romance.
Which is funny to me because I feel like I had heard of a Harlequin romance like even before I started, way before I started reading romance. Like I don't even know the first time I heard about a Harlequin romance. Like it was like that long ago. Like I just knew that that was a thing and those were that was like what I called like the steamy, that's what I called romance, like a
Yes.
Harlequin romance, like a steamy romance novel. It was like all of them were Harlequin romance novels. So it's like it's interesting that like people only slightly younger than me
Yes.
don't know, like have never heard of that. Because I felt like that was like such like a ingrained like institutional like if
Yes.
you knew anything about books, you had heard about a Harlequin romance.
Well, so this points to also part of why I was burnt out, which it feels like all of these avenues of romance. I don't know what the right word is. We'll say avenues of romance. You've got the Harlequins, you've got like the traditional historical, the traditional contemporary, the young adult contemporary, fantasy, and then
Yeah.
you had this other community largely online that was self-published. And so you could go do
Yeah.
like what is the word? Fanfic. There we go. Sorry, end of the
Yes.
workday. Fanfic. You could
Yeah.
do like what Chloe Liese started as, which are these wonderful books that were self-published. And you have expectations when you're reading those types of things for how they're going to be paced or how they're going to flow or what the writing style is going to be. And now that like book talk is promoting everything and anything, which is wonderful in a lot of ways. It like democratizes the genre and it brings more people into it, and that's great. It is really hard to tell what you are getting into because it just,
Hmm.
and these readers who don't know, to your point, the history of romance, and that like Harlequin is this thing, and then maybe you progress to this or you do this. They treat it as a pillar, and I think sometimes that further entrenches the like internalized misogyny or shame around it, rather than realizing
Hmm.
there's all of these different facets to the genre, just like there's all of these different facets to mystery or
Hmm.
thriller. Like
Yeah.
I just I get excited and frustrated by social media and the publishing industry's
Yeah. Because I think
relationship.
and I think it also it opens it up so much more to like other book communities who like have always
Hmm.
looked down on romance, but now sort of have this like really easy access to looking down on romance. And so like it's this double-edged sword where like on one hand, like it's great because so many new people are finding the genre and like the genre is more popular than ever and like it is exploding and
Hmm.
like all of these indie authors are getting trad pub deals. Although most of them are like the white indie authors, which is like a whole other
Hmm.
bag of worms. So like all these new people are coming in, but then also like all these new people are criticizing and all these new people are trying to like make like cash grabs on
Cash grabs.
the romance. Yeah.
Which brings me to something we did talk about offline, which is 831 Stories, this new, I don't know if it's an imprint or publishing house for romance. It's something like that. I went to one of their launch parties for their first book, which is called Big Fan. Um, and
Hmm.
I think the book has gotten like excellent reviews. My friend read it and loved it. But it's this, I'm not going to talk about the book itself. I'm going to talk about the publishing house or imprint or whatever it is, which is
Hmm.
basically they're marketing themselves in like Glamour and Variety and all of these articles
Yeah, the
saying that they want
article
to be
you sent me was like the Bravo of the romance genre or
romance.
something.
And they're trying to do these, they're basically doing a cash grab, like monetization play. They realize that like romance publishing is the cash cow of the publishing industry.
Yes. And always has
It's
been.
always has been, but they're masking it. I mean, that's the unkind way of reading it, but they're basically positioning
Hmm.
their product as this lit fic approach to romance. So they're not having
Hmm.
traditional romance writers write these books. It's they're bringing in outside writers to write in this
Hmm.
genre and have the writers learn the genre. They are branding it like a cool girl kind of brand. They're very simple covers. I'm
Yeah, I just
calling
looked at the
this,
covers. It's very literary fiction
it
cover.
looks like an indie print, like it looks like the New York Review of Books or something like that. And they are trying to do it to quote unquote destigmatize romance, but by implying that there's something to be ashamed about, like they are
Hmm.
part of the issue. And it just, it irks me.
Yeah.
It really irks me.
Yes. It's like all those people who, I mean, they're about to come out of they're going to be coming out of the woodwork right around the time this episode is going to be coming out. All the people that come around Valentine's Day with their articles, usually like, do romance novels need a happy ending? Here's how I'm actually furthering like, destigmatizing the romance genre by my book having a tragic ending or like whatever. It's like,
Congrats. You wrote a book. It's not a romance. Like, I
it's
don't
not
know
a
what to
romance.
tell
I'm
you.
so sorry.
But also, I think with this being a trend, it's like there's pressure to write romance, but like if you don't want to write romance, you shouldn't have to. Like, you shouldn't,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's, it's
It's
a really
tough.
good, yeah, it's tough because it is exciting to have a new, like these new voices and these new perspectives come in to romance
Hmm.
and give, they're very short, almost novella style. But at the same time, you're entrenching the misogyny here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like so many people. I feel like even when I started reading romance, like there was still a lot of that like misogyny unpacking that I had to do. And a lot of like the way that I unpacked it was I was listening to like Fated Mates with Sarah McLean and Jen, I forget her last name. Because they talk about like old school romance and they talk about like, all the like bodice ripper, like consent issue, like all of that stuff. And I feel like people aren't And I feel like that's the difference between like me versus maybe people who came into romance after me. Because I mean, because I came in through to romance from you, right? I didn't go
Mhm.
in from the internet. But
Yeah.
even if I had, like, I was coming in and then I was like joining Facebook groups and I was like active on that. Like, Book Talk wasn't like TikTok, I think, had really just started. And like, we were all like, this is just the next app that's like, it's going to flame out. Like, nobody thought TikTok was going to
Mhm.
last at this time. We're like, it was literally just dancing videos at that time. Like, it really was
Yes.
not even like stereotypically, it was just dancing videos. And then like in just a few years, like everybody's coming in these different ways. Yeah, and they're not, yeah, I think it's hard. We were talking about earlier where it's hard to say, like, has the quality of romance gone down?
Hmm.
Or is it that like the amount of romance has gone up and so therefore like just proportionally like there are going to be more bad books? Or is it also the fact that like we say all these books 20 years ago are so much better, but that's because we're only reading the good ones because the good ones are the only ones that are still being read and recommended.
Actually, I think that's where I land. Is like I think back even okay, even 6 ago, before Bridgerton on Netflix really blew up and Book Talk really
Mm-hmm.
blew up, it was a small back room section of a Barnes and Noble. Most bookstores, I mean, they still don't really carry it, but a lot of indies don't carry or did not carry romance. And it was like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a wall in your library that like the grandmas attracted. It was like very much curated for you by the sellers. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was also just less choice. Or you went hog wild on Kindle like I did and you get all the free stuff. But you knew
Yeah.
it was going to be bad if you did that. It was again like you knew it was sorted for you and you knew what you were going to
Mm-hmm.
get or curated for you. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there was a lot of bad stuff out there too. But I was reading Sarah Dessen and Meg Cabot
Right.
alongside Julia Quinn and best of the best.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
really interesting because speaking of like romance authors have been around for a long time. Like there's this one romance author that I read and I read a later series of hers and it was great and I love it. And I read like later books and it was great and I loved them. And then I went back and read the beginning of her catalog and I was like, this is utter crap. There's a reason that nobody recommends these books. Like if anything can tell you how popular historical romance was at the time in like the 90s, it's the fact that this book got published.
And so this raises the next question is like, are we just seeing the early careers of a bunch of writers that are going to get really, really good?
Right.
And like,
Right.
how do you, like, in what ways, like, not all of them are going to like go through traditional publishing either. And so, like, in what ways are they going to be building on craft? Because you don't need to do that in traditional publishing, but that is generally like, that is a forcing mechanism
To what? Build on
to like
craft.
to build on craft to like work hand in hand with a writing partner or like editor that you trust and have that relationship
Yeah,
and you can
okay.
have that outside of you have that outside of publishing too but like
Yeah.
having someone that knows you and
Yes.
has that relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is where
Yeah. Well, I
I'm
think it's hard
curious.
because like that's the thing because I mean, I feel like this is across the board, but I think particularly in traditional publishing, like with romance, like tropes are becoming far more involved. And I think, I mean, you mentioned, you kind of hinted at this earlier, but like it is marketing. Like it's so much easier to market a book as like, this is enemies to lovers. This is The Hunger Games meets Nora Roberts or like whatever. Like it's so much easier to market it when it's like that. And I think there's
Mhm.
a lot of times when authors, both new and old, are being like pressured into writing these books and like they do these like tropes, but then they're just like the surface level. Like it's just like, okay, this is a trope, but it's not like a
Mhm.
trope. It's not like there's no like meat to it.
Okay, so because I've been like a little bit away from romance admittedly for the last I don't know maybe 9 months,
Mhm.
like is historical just not a huge priority in
Historical's
publishing right
dead.
now? It's dead.
Historical is dead. And I'm not, I feel like that's not even hyperbole. I mean, obviously, like there's still people being published, but like even
Hmm.
like I mentioned Sarah McLean earlier, like Sarah McLean's next book is a contemporary. And I actually have the
Yeah.
arc for that. I'm very excited to read it. And I mean, she's written a contemporary novella before, so this technically isn't her
Hmm.
first contemporary. So like I know she can do it and I'm excited. And I know she's still gonna write historical. Like she still has like at least
Yep.
like a series to finish, whatever. But I just feel like the fact that and she said, you know, I've been like trying to write this. I've had this idea for this book for years. I've been trying to write it for years, blah, 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 blah. And like that can be true. But I'm also like the fact that it's coming out now, I just is like the big neon sign of just how dead
Sad.
historical is,
Because
which is
I
such a
had,
shame.
it's a shame because it is my personal, so the world is about me. It
Yes.
is my personal favorite, and I inhale them,
And
and I've gone through.
publishing should be
Should be
revolving
about
around
me.
me.
You know what? The customer is always right, and I am the customer.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm the customer. Customer number
Capital
one.
T, customer number one. And I have gone through the backlog of a lot of these like writers. But this is interesting because I had been wondering, like Julia Quinn obviously has slowed down publishing. She's had a major life event as in her series went
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah,
viral
she hasn't written anything
in
new. Or she wrote
years.
that like Queen Charlotte story, but like
Oh yeah.
she didn't really that was really just like a novelization of something that like, you know, the
Had
show
already
wrote.
been
Yeah.
exactly. Lisa Kleypas has well, that was separate, but Lisa Kleypas hasn't written in years. I'm trying to think. Adriana Herrera, I think still
She's
publishing.
still
I don't
around.
know. She's still
She
around
is. She is, and
yet.
her books just got cartoonified. Like, you know, she had those gorgeous, the first two books in her La
Yes.
Leona
And
series,
the
these gorgeous
lush colors.
women. Yes.
Yes.
The third book is cartoon. She did post, she's like, there will be like a mass park like a year
Okay.
after the initial pub. She's like, that is designed because they'd already designed the third cover in like the first two
Yes.
format. And then they like redesigned it to be cartoon, which, like, listen, whatever sells the books,
Whatever sells the
you
books,
know?
but at the same time, I think it's really important, especially reckoning with what happened in publishing and like or romance and historical romance specifically, like
Hmm.
what, 6 years ago now. It's important to have women of color
With
be just like
with
the
RWA. Is that what you're talking about?
with
Yeah. Okay.
RWA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like shorthand. This works in my brain.
No, 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 no. I was just making sure.
No.
I was like,
Yes.
I was like, I can't think what else she would be talking about, but I'm pretty sure it's
No.
RWA. Yeah.
But with that, it's really important to have like women of color on covers in those
Yeah.
traditional desirable
Yes.
clinches. Like you can't just bait and switch. Like I know that's not these are converging trends, but I think it's so important to have that like cover
Yes.
and experience and representation
Yes.
of desire.
Yes.
So
But then it's like the other thing, like, because that's the thing that about cartoon covers is like on one hand, like it's important to have representative real people, but on the other hand, so many of these covers are using like more and more using like stock photos, and there just
mhm.
aren't very many stock photos. So like the cartoon covers are a way to like represent like a plus size like black woman in a
Mhm.
way that like a stock photo is probably not
Is
going to have an
not.
option for. So it's like, you know, there's a lot of
God forbid we pay models or artists or photographers. I mean, just God forbid.
yeah, like I don't hate cartoon covers. I think there's a
No,
certain like
Talia Hibbert's cartoon covers are
they're
wonderful.
great and I think they fit the
Yes.
tone of her books really well. Or like
Hmm.
there are even some historicals like Manda Collins's books are all
Mm.
cartoon. And then like Erica Ridley, well, her books with the Wild Winchester series, I don't know if you've heard of
Yes.
it. The first few books were real people and they were these gorgeous fucking covers. But like they switched to cartoon like halfway through the series and like as much as I love the real people cover, like the cartoons at the very least do fit like the vibe
Yes.
of that series.
It's more, this brings in the Harlequin rebrand, which I think was actually really well done, which is they understand each of their lines and have tailored the covers and the like visual representations of them to what to expect in those books. And I think they've led the charge there
Hmm.
really well. There's cartoon covers, there's photo covers, there's like
Hmm.
text heavy. And I just think they did a wonderful job because it's, I think romance is unique in that like you really do have to find what is right for you. And
Hmm.
just the covers play such a huge role in that.
Right. And it's just so it makes it's so much harder to find what's right for you because the covers. And I mean,
Absolutely.
Harlequin has always understood that, like with their different lines, like Harlequin
Hmm.
Blaze, Harlequin Desire, like all of those, like they already knew like I mean, they're called category romance for a reason. Like they put them in
Yes.
different categories. And of course, category romance is a whole other type of romance in that it's like short and tight and snappy and like it's trope heavy, but it's like boom, 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 boom. Like, like you get a
Yes.
story and you get nothing but story.
Oh, you are pregnant. You are the CEO. He is your
You're a
billionaire
lost
boss.
princess.
You
Like
are a
he's your
lost
childhood
princess.
friend who like is your bodyguard and also a secret spy. And
Yeah,
yeah.
and you're in the mafia. Like,
Yeah.
yes,
And you own a bake shop.
yes.
So like they've always, I feel like Harlequin has always had, and I feel like that's the reason they've been around for so long, whereas so many of the other romance imprints have either had to completely evolve or are just dead. Whereas Harlequin is like, listen, we got a formula, we know people, we know what works.
Hmm. But this reminds me of a Fated Mates interview that they did with Nora Roberts, where I think she got her start
Mm,
writing Harlequin or another like trade romance like that. And
yeah.
it's your training ground. Like you basically like you
Yeah.
learn it is a crash course in craft and a crash course in like
Yeah.
how to write quickly. And
Yeah.
to your earlier point, like the just writers are coming up in different ways, which is awesome. To your point, like this means
Yeah.
more people can write, and we're not just
Yeah.
platforming the same few
Right.
white
Like, thank
women.
God. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough. And like there's so much like I feel like instead of everyone coming from category, which is I feel like what it was before, the trading ground is now fan fiction in a lot of
Yep.
ways. And listen, I'm so pro fan fiction and I'm so pro fan fiction writers who do that shit for free, like getting
Hmm.
that bag. But there's also like such a struggle because the expectations of fan fiction are so much different than traditional public than like or even just indie publishing. Like it just a lot of times
Hmm.
doesn't transfer over. I think even because you have to divorce the book from the world that it was created in. And so a lot of
Yep.
times like there are fanfic authors that do this really well. Like I personally think like Allie Hazelwood has done this really well. Like obviously especially because of the covers, like I can tell that this used to be Raylo fic, but I'm also like I feel like this is a separate story as well. But there are a lot of people who I'm like reading it and I'm like, I just feel like this was probably such a better book when it was fan fiction.
Yes. Because also it's serialized. So to our point about pacing and stuff, it's a
Right.
totally different pacing. Like
Right.
you really get a different feeling reading fan fiction than you do. And so it's just a totally
Yeah.
different. It would be like asking, I don't know, I write marketing stuff that like asking me to go write a fiction novel. Like it's just not gonna. That's an
Yeah.
extreme example, but like they're two different forms
Yeah.
and two different modes
Yeah.
of communication. Yes.
Yeah.
So, oh, it's tricky because it's like it's a net positive, but it's hard as a
Yeah.
reader. I just feel like I'm getting burnt out, and I
Yeah.
need to find a new mode of finding. I need like Facebook groups to really have a resurgence or something, but not on Facebook because I don't want their data. But I want something like that.
Right. But like the Fated Mates face, it's not the Fated Mates. It
Yes,
was like Sarah McLean's like old school romance book or whatever. That recently closed down. It doesn't exist anymore. They shut the Facebook group
exactly.
down like two
You're
months
you're
ago.
you're losing these communities where you could find and source stuff that you knew was vetted
Yeah.
to be in your taste.
And in some ways they're moving elsewhere. Like Discord is becoming more of it, but it's like
Hmm.
it's so much harder to find those if you're
Yeah,
not, you can't really like stumble across them in the way that you could before.
and that's what made romance so wonderful. Is you just like stumble on it and then go really deep, and it's a like it can
Hmm.
be a really welcoming place to be. And
Yeah.
you just I'm excited. I know this is now like a broader conversation. Like there is so much happening with social media and platforming and just where people
Hmm.
are. I've personally deleted TikTok and now I want to
I
go
like
find my
TikTok, but
new
now I feel
communities.
so icky about like
I just got so addicted and then that happened and I was like, I'm just you know what? It's probably better for me if I
I was
just
honestly like like I'm free. I was like Nicole Kidman coming out of getting divorced from Tom Cruise. Like that was me. I was like freedom. And then like less than 24 hours later it was like thanks President Trump for bringing us back. And I was like oh this got so much worse. It's
it
like
did
this just got so much
so much
worse.
worse. It like made me feel actively icky. Before that, I could just be like, I don't see that sign because I can't read. And now, now I'm aware. Yeah. So I will stay tuned for whatever platform comes next. And hopefully, I am hopeful that we are just seeing a whole slew of new writers hit the stage and that they're going to develop
Hmm.
and get better and better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so hard because like once I read a bad book by an author, I'm not necessarily willing to give them a second chance because there are so many
Mm-mm.
options. And because I've been burned so many times before when I do give authors a second chance. But
Exactly.
it's like that I could be missing out on like someone who 5 books in like really has like gotten a handle on their craft.
Exactly.
But then you also like not everybody is gonna really make a career out of it. And not everybody is gonna be writing 20 like gonna be on their 20th book like 20 years from now. Like they're gonna write 3 books and then they're out. So it's like, who do I invest my time and energy in?
Well, so this reminds me where I'm like, I also wonder what like catalogs are going to look like in the future. Because you would have people that just, especially, I mean, I guess it's really especially with historical, like you just have really deep catalogs and they were publishing at a crazy rate. But are we going to see that now when we have more authors than ever to provide that volume? Or, and where it's probably cheaper?
I don't know.
I just,
Yeah.
which is a bummer because there are authors like Helen Wang, where it's like every time I go to a bookstore, I'm like, do you ever read anything new? I want more. I love
Yeah,
those
but
books.
Helen Huang hasn't written anything
Mm-mm.
since the
Since
whatever the
that
Heart Principle
trilogy.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a bum. I am begging the universe for more of those books, but
Please, Helen, come back.
please,
Please.
please. But a lot of those, that's just one example. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really curious what catalogs, to your point about getting invested and being like really drawn into a world and a writer's style. There's like no better feeling than when you stumble on a book and you realize that they've written 15 other books and you can just
Yeah.
go
You're like, oh, thank
deep.
God.
It's like when you find a really good sweater at a Goodwill and you're like, there is a
Yeah.
God.
Yes. Or like for me with Beverly Jenkins, I'm like, I always know that there's a Beverly Jenkins in the break in case of emergency, like bookcase in my mind. It's like I always know there's gonna be another one.
Tessa Dare is one of those authors for me too, where I'm just like, I will always have a good time. And I think the first time I read her,
Always
I
have
read
a
them
good
so
time.
fast that I have forgotten how they go. And so I'm just like, this is
Hmm.
great. I'm on the ride again. So
Yeah. Come back. I'm
come
laughing. I'm
back.
having a great goddamn time.
I'm having a great time. I forgot about the lobsters. Give me more fluffy. So
Lobsters were great. Yeah, like listener, if you like, I feel like it was very Friends. It was a very Friends like
yeah,
reference. Like he's her lobster. Like Rex and Fluffy, the lobsters that she's trying. She's so like Maddie. I don't think we mentioned Maddie draws organisms. Like she draws like bugs and she draws snails. Like for like biology, like ecology, and like books. She like illustrates stuff. She's a really good illustrator. And so she has these 2 lobsters that she's just like waiting for them to mate because she's like been hired to draw them in every phase of like the lobster life cycle. And she's like, I'm literally just waiting for these lobsters to fuck. And then when they do fuck, she misses it
this
because
is
she's
it.
because Logan got hurt and she's taking care of him.
And isn't that romantic? She
She missed the lobster fucking.
to take care of her one true love, and then he like understood and interred that as like being loved. There's no better feeling. And then they release them into the ocean, and
They
it's
released them into the
beautiful.
ocean,
And
which
they get to
I
be
I couldn't
free.
help thinking like, okay, wait, like didn't she get paid? I was like, is she gonna get 2 new lobsters? It's like how does that whole job work out? Because she hasn't finished the
I know.
job.
But she doesn't finish the job. I'm like, and also it's the encyclopedia. I'm like, don't you need that for the encyclopedia? Like, I don't
No, I
know.
think that lobsters were for the guy that she was for Orkney, that she
That
was
was
gonna
for
go, that
Orkney.
invited her to go
Yes.
to Bermuda.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Yes, that was for
So it
him.
was
The
for a
like
different
slightly
guy.
different guy. She has several guys that she is
Several
working
guys.
with. Several guys. This woman well connected. She has made a career for herself.
Brilliant. Yes.
Brilliant. I need her networking skills,
Oh my God.
please.
Yeah, I was like, you're not shy, Maddie. Like, you know
No,
how to work a fucking room. As long as that room only has like five people in it, you're
exactly.
golden.
And you can talk about drawing bird wings. Everybody's
Oh my
happy.
God. Oh yeah,
I
then the one time
know.
when fucking Logan like is like, watch out, there's something behind you, and then he like crushes it. He's like, I got it. I got the beetle. And
Yes.
she's like, no, I was
No.
drawing that beetle.
And when you think about the fact that that beetle could have come from, like, I don't know, Singapore, like how far that beetle traveled.
She's like, I can't get another one of these beetles easily.
No, I cannot order this off of Timu. Like, this
Oh
is
my
not drop shippable.
God.
Oh my God.
There's no beetle
Oh,
drop shipper in the Regency era. Sadly.
unfortunately, that was not invented yet. But, oh, that she, and this is what I also loved about this book. Like, they both have such developed, like, interests. Like, he loves to read and he's making these literary
My
references.
God.
Oh my God, when she sees
Wait,
him with the glasses in bed.
when he puts on the glasses for the first time and she's like drooling. And then
Yes.
she comes out of like the Regency era bathroom and he's like in bed shirtless, glasses on with a book and she says something. She's like, I had literally finally gotten to the point where I was no longer horny for you, and then you do this?
Exactly. And she voices that. And
Yes.
another case of being hilarious. Oh,
She's like, you like to read? And he's like, no, I just picked up this book. And she's like, I see that book. That book has been read hundreds of
yeah.
times. Don't you fucking like? He's
Oh,
like, fine, yeah. I like to read.
I
What of it?
read. What about it? Try me. And then also, oh, what was the line where I think it was maybe that scene or it was a similar scene where she came out and she's like, I better not come around that screen and see you holding a baby because like I cannot withstand that.
Oh,
That is the one
yes.
thing. And I'm just like,
Yes.
I love that. Like she is just like, damn it, I am attracted to him. Why is he so hot?
And then they go to the is it at Beltane or when they're visiting the village? At one point, someone hands him a baby, and she's like,
I can't remember. I think it might have been Beltane. I think it was like when, yes,
yeah.
yes. And he's holding the, and then because that's when she learns about the pin.
Oh
Oh,
my God, the pin.
the pin.
That's what I love.
This book also did a wonderful job of illustrating like how you can hurt the people that you love without even realizing it, just because of like trauma and just like touching wounds.
Yeah.
But then how you heal from that and move on from that.
Yeah.
Oh, because the pin, that poor, I just want to give him
Pin.
a hug.
Poor
Oh,
boy.
the poor
Yeah.
boy.
So, listener, Logan's backstory is that he was like a poor orphan. Basically, his mom like abandoned him on a hill. He was old enough to remember her abandoning him, but left him with the pin that was like the engagement pin between his parents. So he saw his mom abandon him. Then he was raised, and he was adopted by a vicar, and then the vicar only turned out only to adopt him so he could like send him to war when like they came looking for a son from every family or whatever for the Napoleonic Wars. And so like this poor man has no
So
family,
messed
who's
up,
been so
betrayed and
hurt.
abandoned.
And then Maddie thinks the pin has his parents' initials on it, but he has the same name as his father. So she thinks that like this is a pin he gave to another woman. And then she like learns at the very end that it's actually like from his parents and like because you give it to your firstborn. Like,
It's and that she had been like really jealous and cruel about it.
yeah,
And then just like the oh my God moment of realizing,
yeah.
oh,
But then on this, like the way he did that to her, like in the same way, like he's been sad about the fact that she quote unquote killed him off.
mhm.
He was like, because I like got to the point where like I actually really liked your letters. And we find out, listener, you know how he threatened? He threatened to put her letters in the scandal sheets, but he doesn't have any of them. He just memorized all of her letters because he's read them so many
So many times.
times.
I want to die. It made me just well up. He just loved her so much. I, they loved each, like, that she could be this, like, home from, oh, you know what line really messed me up? When she's like,
Mm.
Logan, you're home. And he was like, I never thought I would hear that in my life.
Mm.
And I just, that wrecked me. Just like the quiet
Mm.
things that can change you, like through friendship, through love.
He goes from quite literally saying, I don't have any feelings. He's like, I don't have feel I wrote down the quote. Where is it? If you think I'm harboring feelings for another woman, you've got it all wrong. I don't have any feelings. He goes from that to like, I'm home.
I'm home. Oh, it's like showing a soft belly. It just like, I
Yeah.
know.
Because he's been hurt so many times. Yeah.
And she can be, I love the idea of a big, strong man and this like type of masculinity. And she's the one that then is like a backbone and strength for him.
Because he is a lobster. She says this multiple times. She's
Yeah.
like, you have a heart. He is a cinnamon roll.
He's a cinnamon roll and he's got mushy insides.
Yes, he's like she's like you're hard on the outside, you got mushy insides. You're like
Yep.
you're a lobster, you're a cinnamon roll. There was at one point,
Oh,
yeah, like that felt there was another thing that felt very a little bit like meta of where is it? Oh, it was the cinnamon, but like very romance meta is there's a scene in which Logan's men are not Meta as in the Facebook company. I'm actually so mad that now I have to clarify that. Um, there's a scene in which the men, Logan's men, are all like instructing him in how to use his like Scottish man wiles to like seduce Maddie. They're like call her like lass and call her a wee lass and like Bonnie and
uh,
like wrap her in your kilt and all. And it was like such a like I'm just gonna list all of the like Highlander romance tropes
tropes.
here. I was like,
Yes.
Tessa, I see that, you cheeky little.
She's cheeky. She's smart. She just plays with it. Oh, that, and then the Pride and Prejudice references that they do too throughout the book. Um, like every once
Hmm
in a while, I think it's related to him reading, but then they'll play on like, do they know each other? Do they not? The preconceived notions. I'm just like, oh, what a smart take.
hmm
She's
hmm
wonderful. Oh, is there, what were your favorite tropes from this book, even though they were kind of flipped on their heads?
I really like the found family. I think that's something that Tessa does really well. She does found, I feel like all of
Hmm.
her series have, all of her books have like a found family
Yeah.
element.
And I love too in this case because I feel like sometimes it's like this sense of like women needing to find community, especially like in historical romance. Like she writes a lot
Hmm
of women who live outside the bounds of like traditional society. But
hmm
I love that he also had that and like got to find his own community. And it's not this patriarchal, like
hmm
I come from this line and like this is my definition.
Right. Yeah, this was
Yeah.
so very not aristocrat. I mean, she is like her like grandfather's an earl or something, and then like her uncle's
Yeah.
gonna be, you know what I like she's part of the aristocracy. But he is very much not. And she is very much not a part of society. And like she obviously she isn't like literally part of the aristocracy insofar as like
Yeah.
she's in a direct line. Like so yeah, it felt like very removed
Yes.
in a way that historical romance really struggles with. Not that I mind, I mean, because I love a fucking ballroom and I love a
I
duke. And I know
do.
they're all evil slave owners and they probably don't have any teeth and like what, but you know what? Not in my world. Not in my
No,
historical romance
if we
life.
get to live in fantasy land that like these women have agency and choice and we're getting orgasms, we can also live in fantasy land that
Right.
like the economic and like whatever
Exactly.
factors were not part of it. Just let me wave.
If I can put away the fact that Logan is not considered a villain for trying to take away Maddie's independence, and the fact that she's like
Yep.
independently wealthy and has independent real estate when she can't even fucking vote, like
Mm-hmm.
this man's trying to take that away because once
Mm-hmm.
they get married, she's his property legally. And he's not the villain for that. So like we're living in that fantasy world.
We are exactly. We are having fun. It's not that serious. It's fine.
It's
This
not
is
that
not the.
serious.
It's just not that serious. No, that like we can live in this world where they get like hand fasted or hand, yeah, is it hand fasting
And
when
fasted,
they're
yeah.
married? but it's not really real until they like fuck. Like if they can live in an in between, but like live
Yeah,
together and she's not ruined, I don't know. Like we're fine.
that's true. Although they're so like deep in the Highlands, it's like
Who cares? I
no one's gonna
know.
know.
No one's gonna know. Every once in a while, I like to like be reminded that like people were human back then too. Like I remember someone telling me
Yeah.
once, they're like, don't look too closely at your family history records because you'll see that the firstborn is generally burned like not 9 months after your great grandparents got married. I was like, yeah, we were humans. We were out on farms. Like it's just it
Yeah.
is what it is.
No birth control. People were fucking. Oh, like it's fine.
People have desires. Tales all the time.
They always
So
have. I'm sorry. People have always been horny. Like I don't know what else to tell
yes,
you.
the universal human experience. We did not invent it,
Is
unfortunately.
horniness. Yeah.
No, just
You
pure
can pretend
horniness.
like you didn't, but
Yes, but here we are. Oh, no, I think that was mine. And then my other favorite trope was the reject to protect. That he was like, no, I can't love you because I need to protect my heart. It was done so
yes.
well.
And the I'm calling it, it definitely didn't begin with Tangled, but in my head I call it like the Tangled trope where the like, you were my new dream. Like I can't let you give up your dream,
Yes,
but you're my dream.
you're my dream, and we're gonna like achieve our dreams together, and they can
Yeah.
coexist.
Cause she,
Ah,
so at the end, listener, she gets the offer from a guy who I think may be a real person. I think it may be who the Orkney Islands. That's what I assumed, that
I
it was
was
like the
wondering
historical
about this.
figure that the Orkney
Yes,
Islands was named after, which would like make sense because he's like a naturalist. Um, but so he comes and he's like, come to Bermuda with me, Maddie, and like draw barnacles. Like, I think that'd be fucking great. And Logan is like, you have to go. You have to go live your dream and like be successful. He's like, I'll be waiting. And then he's also like, I am not gonna trust that like I can't trust that you've chosen me unless you come back, unless you like leave and then come back.
mm-hmm.
So he sends her off. She's gone a week. This man is like a shell of himself
Distraught.
within 24 hours. Like he's like,
Yeah,
I'm fine. I don't have any feelings. It's fine. And then all of his men are like, dude, why didn't you just go with her? Like you could have just, and he's
yeah,
like, but I need to stay and take care of you. And they're like, we're fine. We like are almost done building our houses. Like we've integrated, like we're fucking fine. We don't, you can
yep.
go on a honeymoon to Bermuda. And he's
Go have
like,
fun.
oh my God, I gotta go. And then as soon as he's like I have to go catch her. Like, and if I don't make it in time, like I'll write her letters. And he turns around and she's like, oh, I kind of really would have liked to like read those letters, but like she's
Yeah,
there. Then she's like, listen, it was not my dream to go to fucking Bermuda. And I'm personally like, really? I'm like, you sure you don't want to go to Bermuda?
it seems pretty fucking cool
It
to have
seems pretty
agency
cool.
as a woman.
But also like I do understand like 4 month journey. You don't want to go to Bermuda. But
Presumably crowded on that ship too.
yeah,
So,
presumably not a fun journey. But she's like, your reasoning for sending me was that like if you weren't here, like I would have said yeah, like I would go. And she's like, if you weren't here, I would have said no. Like I would not have had the confidence to do any of
mhm.
that. And so she's like, instead I went to like fucking Inverness and I like pitched that encyclopedia guy to get that job. And like now I'm back. Hey. Like, good to know that you absolutely crumble to dust without me. That's actually really heartening.
This is really wonderful. They each get their own type of like, yes, their affirmation from the other and like true commitment. Oh, goddamn. So good.
And it starts because Grant remembers her. So every time
Yes,
Grant meets, it's like this running funny trope. He sees like, who are you? And she's like, she has to like be like, I'm Maddie. I'm the one that was writing to the captain all those years. Like, we're married. And then he looks at Logan. He's like, you're a lucky bastard.
yes,
Like, and then they tell him, he's like, where's Maddie? And they're like, what? You remember her? And he's like, yeah, I fucking remember her. Like, listen,
yeah,
sometimes brain injuries heal, all right? Where's your girlfriend?
yes. Well, I loved too, like he was starting to heal at the end, and like you get hope for him too that he's going to like
Yes,
heal
that he's
and
recovering somewhat.
yes.
Yeah. Because he finally
Oh,
remembers that like his kids are dead and his aunt, like, he's like,
yeah.
because every time they have to be like, we'll go there tomorrow. Like, don't worry, like we'll
Yeah.
go there tomorrow. And he like when he remembers, he's like, you're like you've lied to me. Like I like we went,
Hmm.
and then like after he kind of has that breakdown, he starts to remember
He,
again, and it's really sweet.
yes. Oh,
Yeah,
Grant is a wonderful character. Just
he's so sweet.
which she's like, he's my favorite. He's also my favorite. Oh,
I love him. Oh, we also get this beautiful quote where I think Logan says this. I don't know because I just wrote down the quote and then I put a crying face emoji, so I'm not actually sure. But the quote is, I felt as if I tugged on the loose thread of God's tartan and someone on the other side of the world tugged back.
oh my God. It's being known. It just, this book, I just cannot stress enough to any listeners who have not read this yet. It is a gut punch after gut punch of every type of feeling. It is just, you are going to feel when you read this book.
And it's fully a standalone. Like Tessa Dare usually does all of her other series are like series where like yes, they're all standalones, but it's kind of like a better experience if you read in order. This is part of her
Hmm.
Castles of Raptor series, and each of those books is like fully like
Fully.
the premise of the series is that girl inherits castle and
Great
shenanigans
premise.
ensue. But like none of them are related. So you can just dive right into this and have a great time and learn about the lobsters.
I think I'm going to go back and read the other two now and just continue this ride.
I don't know that I've read all three of them. I've read
I don't remember what
the
the others
like
are
Beauty and
called.
the Beast kind of one, where like he's
Okay.
blind and scarred, like
Oh,
disabled, and she
yeah.
like inherits his castle, but he's like, I literally didn't even know that someone had sold my castle. Like this is my
Yes, yes,
castle. Like
yes.
what do you mean you own it?
Yes.
I don't know what the third one is.
I can't remember either. Wait, let me pull it up.
Oh, I have read the bonus epilogue for When a Scot Ties the Knot.
Oh, you have?
I just looked it up. I'm trying to look at the series on Goodreads and it comes up as read. I have no memory.
Okay, I've read these, but I read them 10 years. Oh my God, 11 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Oh, I forgot that there's a fourth book in Castles of Rafter, but it's part of Spindle Cove. That's how I would have read it
That's the tie over, right?
because it's the crossover book. Oh no, I haven't read that one. It's still want to read. Oh man. Okay, so I've got
You just uncovered a new Tessa Dare. That's the best feeling. Okay, so I will say, despite all the bugs and the lobsters
and
and a few birdwings,
this
no
snail.
cats. And the snail, but no cats,
No cats.
no dogs. Would you categorize
I
them as
can't
pets
believe no one
also?
got a kid. I can't believe no one got a fucking
Right?
that seems
Seems like
that seems
something
like
that
a
you'd
missed
want.
opportunity.
You could have had a funny scene where the cat tried to get the lobster and it was just like,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the cat, like, yeah, the lobster like
yes,
clamps the cat. Yeah.
there's
Third
humor to be
epilogue.
found there. Third
Third
epilogue, give
epilogue
me a
coming.
cat.
It's
Exactly.
coming around. Oh, I kept forgetting to mention just the one, just about the snails and everything. The fact that like she would always draw him little like drawings of like animals in her letters,
Yes.
and he's like, I kept hoping that you would send me a picture of yourself, but you kept
Oh,
fucking sending me snails.
yeah. I love it. I
Like
loved it.
they were really cute snails, but why can't I fucking see you?
Yes, I want to know what you look like. Oh God. I I just love it. I just absolutely adore it. It's a pistolary romance, kind of. Another trope that she
Well,
throws on its head.
yeah, that's the
Yes,
thing. Yeah. I would, you know what I would have loved if like each chapter began with like an excerpt
of a letter.
of a letter. Because I know that like Sarah McLean does something like that in the first book of her second series, the Casino
Okay.
series,
Yep.
where it's like letters they wrote each other as kids because it's like childhood
Yeah, yeah,
friends to like
yeah.
estranged lovers. And that's really cute. Like it's literally just like little clip, like send a sentence, and that would have been really cute if we got like sentences just from
Just little
her.
snippets.
Yeah.
Yes. Because then you could see the character growth, too, of like her is
Yeah.
like a 16-year-old to her is the woman.
We could have gotten more of his shitty poetry that she made up.
More of the shitty poetry. Oh my God. It was so funny. It was so gleefully like badly written. And I need to know, like, did she think it was bad when she was writing it at 16 or did she think it was good? I don't care either way. It was
I don't
wonderful.
know. Yeah. And the
Oh,
aunt is like, not all of them were horrible. Like, he wasn't really much of a
no.
poet, but they weren't all bad.
But I love that the aunt was in on it at that point. Like, she knew. She always
She knew
knew
the
that the
whole
letters were
time.
fake.
Well, because the aunt has the whole she had the whole thing where she was quote unquote ruined by like some French count, like the Comte de something. And she was like, yeah, like we actually fought, but like he didn't like ruin me for all men. She was like actually was kind of mediocre in bed, but like it was fine. Like I just didn't want to get married. And she was like, I thought that you had already figured that out, Maddie. I thought we were
Yeah.
on the same page, that like we both understood that we had like pulled this scheme so we didn't have to get
Yeah.
married.
I thought we were like kindred spirits in this one. I guess sometimes Maddie very observant about lobsters and snails and
Not
etc. But
about
not
people.
not about people.
And that's, I feel like, another trope, like knows all about animals but doesn't know about people.
Does not cannot figure
Great
this
with
one
animals,
out.
not great with
Can't
people, yeah.
exactly. Even children, good with children, but not. I need a
Great
whole
with
spin-off
children.
of just Beyond and like her obsession with all of these elixirs, her
Oh
affair
yeah.
with her the Godfather for 20 years. I'm like, tell me all about this
Yeah.
woman. She seems fascinating.
She's an icon. She's a legend. I need more of her,
Ugh.
yeah. She reminds me of Elisa Braden's series, Rescued from Ruin. It's like a 10-book series.
Ooh.
There is a character named Lady Wallingham. She's like a very Lady Danbury kind of character. And each chapter just begins with like usually like a letter, like a excerpt from her that she's like said or like written, and they're all like, and I'm like, I literally just want a book about her. I just want her, like, she doesn't even have to fall in love. I just want her like solving crimes with her dog.
Yes, we should get some like side plot where it's like romance meets, I don't know, Agatha Christie. Give me like a Miss Marple. Like this woman's like on the side of the ballroom and she's like seeing these young
Yes.
people fall in love, but she's like, also there's a murder outside in the
She's
garden.
like,
I'm
there's
gonna
a
go
dead
solve
body
that.
behind me. Like they're making
Yeah.
out, but oh my God, is that someone's
Oh
foot
my
in the
God.
bushes?
Is that blood?
Is that a is that a gun?
I think that would be an excellent, excellent. I would spend so much time in a parallel universe where they're just like, you know what? It's a really violent time to be alive.
Yeah, like a
Time's on the
series
rise.
where it's like
Yes,
main story and then like novella in which this old lady is like
yes,
fighting like international terrorism in the meantime.
absolutely.
Yeah. You did try to like bring it to the Catskill, and then we like
No,
went
this is
away
good.
again.
I'm having so much fun. We're all good.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, speaking this felt very feral cat feral cat energy.
yes,
It was giving like almost like an aristocrats vibe or a Lady and the Tramp kind of vibe.
yes.
Like,
You nailed it. Like he was raised out in the wild. He slept out on the heath.
mhm.
He had more, and she is like a sheltered little cat who finds her strength in her voice and does a big meow at
Yeah.
the end. And it's
Yeah.
just beautiful.
And he's a little tomcat. He's got the
He's
puppy
scrappy.
tomcat cheeks.
Yeah. And he's got big paws. I can totally see these characters as cats. They're just like
Absolutely.
rough
He's
and
like a big
tumble.
fat orange town tomcat,
Yes.
and she's
Oh,
like a little white cat, or like a little black cat. I'm sorry, she prefers black, and she does get covered in ink, so she's a little
yep.
black cat.
So maybe it's like a little like black and gray cat with like splatches or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, a
There
little
we go.
calico. Yeah,
Little
yeah.
calico. There we go. Ah,
Mhm.
no. They're cats. Thoroughly, thoroughly
Yeah.
cats.
And his men, like, it's like herding cats. Like,
Hmm.
that's how easy it is to wrangle them.
They are everywhere and nowhere. And I don't
Chaos
know if they're
personified. At
chaos
one point,
personified.
they're fucking charged with babysitting the lobster, and they're like,
They
but we
lose the
wanted to play
lobster,
cards, so we brought the lobster down in a bucket, and then we kicked over the bucket, the lobster disappeared.
which is
Like, how do you
incredible,
lose a lobster? How do you
right?
lose a lobster?
It takes a lot of work to lose a lobster. And then they search high and low, can't find the lobster. It- It's a pretty, like, also, they were explaining this castle. It's like, it's mostly stairs. There's really just only a few places that
Yeah.
lobster could be. So
Well, can lobsters climb stairs? This is a question I need
I actually
answered.
don't know. I wonder if they can.
They can get pretty big.
They did not say how big these lobsters were. And so
That's
that could
like,
be
and I
a
did
deciding
look it up,
factor.
and lobsters can live like over 100 years.
This is the other thing. Like when she
So
got the lobsters, did they know that they were like the right age? I presumably they were the right age for
I feel
these,
like they're
but
adult. I feel like it's like as long as they're adults, like with most animals, like as long as they're fully grown. I mean, with
then it's
cats,
fine.
bringing it back to cats, you don't even have to be fully
Yeah,
grown. They can start having kids at like 4 months.
which
Fucking
is crazy.
insane.
Oh my goodness. That's bonkers. I actually did not know that.
Anyway, spay and neuter your pets. But Logan and Maddie are not spayed or neutered
No,
because they're humans, and also because in the end,
she
she's
was pregnant
pregnant. But
immediately.
my note is, oh, they released the lobsters into the ocean. Also, Maddie's pregnant. Like in parentheses, like also she's pregnant. More importantly, the lobsters.
The lobsters, they are free. And you go
Lobsters are
swim in the
free.
ocean. They no longer have
Oh,
to be kicked over in a bucket. They're going on a honeymoon. It's great.
it's gonna be
Romantic.
great.
It's gonna be great. And they're gonna have a little baby. And
Yeah. Hope they don't get
congratulations to
caught.
them. No, I I don't know what lobster fishing was like back then. I'm sure they'll be fine.
They're
So,
fine,
sure,
probably.
probably.
You know what? That was back when lobsters were super plentiful.
Yes, and
So,
not considered a delicacy.
no, considered
So,
prison food. They're
considered
considered
prison
the
food.
cockroaches of the sea.
Exactly. So, I'm sure they lived a very
So,
nice long life. And if we're thinking like maybe they were a few years old, maybe they lived another 100 years and they were alive in
yeah,
the
like
1920s.
1920s. Man, they witnessed World War One. Those
They
fucking
witnessed World War
lobsters are
One.
bopping around, and suddenly a German U-boat like bops
Comes
over them. They're
overhead.
like, "What the fuck?"
What was this? I did not sign up for this.
So, Catskill, what are we thinking?
That's the gal. I mean, this is one where there are no cats, but I'd say spiritually they are
No.
so cat-like that it is a firm,
Hmm.
oh, I don't know. Uh 3.75 out of 5. I just
Wait, but so we're going out of 10.
we're
So
going
would
out of
you
10.
really, would you double it to 7 or
I
like
double it to
whatever?
7. I 6.5. We'll take like a little bit off.
6.5. Yeah, I was thinking like
6.5.
6.
I think
Yeah.
6. They're spiritually just really cat-like. There are no
They
cats.
are just feral cats.
They're
Okay,
feral cats.
so 6.25.
I think that's the one. Yeah.
Okay.
Or I can say 7 if we want like a round.
It's fine. We already broke that thing. My sister kept giving fucking uh, like quarter points. Like
There you go.
we've
I know.
crossed that line.
I just want to be super specific here. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like the data must be accurate.
I will not be constrained.
It will not be constrained.
Okay, do you have anything to plug, Elodie?
Oh, I wish I did. With the rest of the series, just go read a bunch of Tessa
Read
Dare.
the rest of the series. Read
Read
Tessa
the rest of the
Dare. Start
series.
reading historical romance. If you
Please
like
save historical romance.
romantasy, like this is the natural successor to romantasy
Yes.
is historical romance because it's got all of the romantasy stuff. Like it just doesn't have fairies. But you know what? The way like fairies are written nowadays, they're basically just 19th century dukes. Like, you know what I mean? With pointy ears.
Yes. If you like romantasy, go read Kerrigan Burn like immediately. It's got the dark
Oh,
elements and the castles and the
dark.
like
Look up the trigger
super.
warnings for that first.
Yeah, look up the trigger warnings for
It's
that one.
very
You have to be okay with dark
dark.
stuff. If you want like historic, yeah, you're exactly right. Please go save historical romance. There's
Please go read
so much
historical
good
romance.
there. there's so many different types of historical romance. You don't have to read like
Yeah.
dupes. You can go. Well, you definitely should go read Beverly Jenkins. But
Go read Adriana Herrera, go read
Herrera,
Courtney
yes,
Milan, go read Erica Ridley.
there's been so much expansion to the drum, like to the genre and subgenre. Go read the Hathaway, the first and second book in the Hathaway series, because that has
Yeah.
like elements of
Right. There are like little supernatural. And
yeah,
I mentioned Elisa Braden before, her Midnight in Scotland series very much has like it like there's like a magical like spirit kind
element.
of like folklore element to it.
Ooh, I love that. One final time, go read historical
Go read
romance. It's
historical romance.
wonderful. Save it so that I, the customer, can go get
Yes.
more historical romance.
And and you know what? And then once it comes back, historical romance writers, let's bring back medievals.
Yes.
I'm really hankering for more medieval romance.
I
Just putting
totally
that out there.
agree. Did you know that Meg Cabot wrote a medieval romance?
No.
It's like this is a deep cut. So her like second to last Princess Diaries book, or maybe third to
Is it
last Princess
medieval?
Diary book, no, included her heroine Mia Thermopolis writing a medieval romance novel. And then Meg Cabot went and wrote that romance novel
Oh,
and
I
published
love
it.
that. Yes,
Hmm.
I love
And it's actually
that.
really good. So
That's
go read
amazing. Oh,
it.
that happened with, the Bromance Book Club.
Yes,
The
Lisa Kay. Yes.
yes, the first book has like each book has like a different romance book like through line, like excerpt throughout. But the first book has a historical romance that they're reading that's excerpted. And I don't know whether it's published yet, but I saw the book deal announcement, like that she's writing that one. And my hope is that if that does well, that she'll write all the other ones that have been excerpted.
Oh, I loved that series too. Oh, yay. See, the tides are
Read more
changing.
romance.
Read more romance. I agree. Medieval romance. I started Wolf Hall last night, so now I'm on a Tudor kick. Give me some Tudor
Oh,
romance.
I love a good Tudor romance.
Oh, just all of it. I
Yeah.
love it. Oh,
Okay.
abundance.
All right. Elodie's AirPod is about to
Amazing.
die. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at We Read It One Night. You can find us on Threads at We Read It One Night. You can email us, We Read It One Night at gmail.com. You can check out our Etsy shop, Evelyn Adelaide, and you can leave us a big fat rating and review wherever you're listening. And if you're on Spotify, they do comments now. Interact with us. Send us more listener suggestions like this one, because like this year, I feel like I'm just gonna like do all listener suggestions. I'm like, I don't really want to have to think anymore. I'm just gonna go down the list,
Yep.
do all listener suggestions. Yeah, thanks so much for listening. Thanks for
Thank
coming on,
you.
Elodie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tessa Dare, for writing this fucking perfect book. And Godspeed, comrades.
Godspeed, comrades.